The recipe for the subroutine technique looks like the following. First, we are either given an undecidable language, or we will use one of the languages that we know that is undecidable from before. Let's call this L. To show is that L prime is undecidable. So in order to prove that L prime is undecidable, we use an undecidable language that we know from before or that is given to us. So how do we do that? The way is simple. We assume towards contradiction that L prime is decidable. Then we show that by using subroutine calls to a Turing machine ML prime, which decides L prime, one can also decide L. We knew from before that L was undecidable, so this would lead to a contradiction. Let's illustrate this. So this is really abstract at the moment, but it will be more clear with examples. But the idea of the illustration is the following. So we're trying to prove L prime is undecidable. If we can construct the Turing machine in a way that we use the Turing machine that may decide L prime, then if there exists a Turing machine that uses this and decides L, this would contradict the fact that L is undecidable, which would make our assumption wrong that there exists a Turing machine that decides L prime. And this would also make our assumption wrong that L prime is decidable. So then we would conclude that L prime is undecidable. So it's sufficient to construct a Turing machine that looks more or less like this. However, this only shows that we did some things before to change the answers. It could be the opposite. We could take the input and put it into the subroutine first, the Turing machine for L prime first, then do some stuff with the output later. We could potentially not even do a lot. We could just like switch the inputs. We could, I don't know, put some things to before, put a subroutine to the aftermath, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's important that we use that Turing machine for L prime, and using that we arrive to a Turing machine for the undecidable language L, which is a contradiction. Here you can see that Turing machine in blue. So this is the illustration. And showing that by using subroutine calls to Turing machine ML prime, one can also decide L, also has a recipe. So first, we describe that algorithm. So we describe the logic behind our Turing machine construction. This is optional, but it's really helpful to have an illustration. Then you also need to prove the correctness of your construction. All of this will be more clear in a second. So let's move on with examples.